It finally arrived, folks. SEC Media Days came, it went, it's here, however you want to say it. Auburn and their appearance in the SEC Media Days happened today on Thursday, the 21st. It took long enough for us to get there to our point in the event, the annual event that is SEC Media Days. But there is plenty to talk about, and represented by Coach Bryan Harsin, running back Tank Bigsby, edge rusher, defensive lineman, however you'd like to categorize him, Derrick Hall, tight end John Samuel Shenker, and plenty of our regular media members, cast that we know, and some national members as well. We're all there to take part in this, to discuss the Auburn Tigers, the SEC, and the implications for the upcoming 2022 season. We're going to talk about all of that here, everything that you probably saw online that you're discussing around the water cooler tomorrow. We want to go ahead tonight and start discussing it as our little E2C network family, our small family within the Auburn family. So that is what is on tap tonight here for E2C Network Live. As always, this is a show that is produced by you and for you with your comments and questions. Tonight, we will also be taking calls from our Booster Club members. They have the exclusive link. Only they will be able to call in if they choose to do so. I know some people were taking notes supposedly today, so we might hear from some of them, but we will be taking your comments and questions. But right now, before we get into everything, I'd like for you to do me a favor, whether you are watching live or on the replay. We appreciate your support by smashing the like button here on YouTube, sharing it out on social media, hitting that share button. If you're on Facebook, the retweet button, you can like them there as well, or even just inviting a friend to be in a part of the show. But also check in right now. This is our check-in period. Post where you're watching from, city, state, international, with a War Eagle, or if you are an SEC fan that just wants to hear what Auburn fans have to say about all this, let us know that you're here as well. Would love to hear from you. Your comments and your questions are what make this show what it is, because this is a show about us, the Auburn family. Corey, thank you for being here and checking in already. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate your patronage, obviously, as a Booster Club member. Would love to hear from you, buddy. You have the links all the time. Would love to see your face. I don't think we've ever gotten to see you face to face. I'm just going to call you out a little bit tonight and embarrass you just a little bit. So I'll kind of go ahead and start us off with my general thoughts. I did put out a video today kind of breaking down the initial press conference with Coach Harsin, kind of sharing my overview of what I took away from the questions, listed all the generally stated what the questions were and his answers and my thoughts about that. So if you haven't, please do check out that video. I go into a little bit of detail there on that stuff. We'll talk about some of that here. What you saw today out of SEC Media Days, the main events being the opening press conference with Coach Harsin. He did sit down again with the media to take a few more questions later on, and then went around to different media outlets, their booths, their tables they had set up, and did some appearances there. Similar things with John Samuel Shenker, Tank Bigsby, and Derrick Hall. They got up on the podium a couple of times. I think they all did at one point, but definitely got to speak with media outlets, and we got a lot of clips, sound bites, moments. I think today the overall feeling is a lot of positivity, and I think there's also a feeling of a lot of things that we took away that we thought we might not get. Usually there's a lot of coach speak at these type of things, and there was plenty of that around, but I think there was some honesty, there was some truthfulness, and there was some, things that were said that were maybe a little bit more honest than we were expecting. Devin says she's going to call in tonight. She was one of the ones saying, I'm taking notes today. So we're excited to hear what those notes are about. So maybe we'll hear from her in a little bit. Kim checking in from Albany, Georgia, home of John Samuel Shenker. Let me just say this. I do think that I finally got his name down in terms of not messing up every time I say John Samuel Shenker. Oh, it's about to happen. For the first 2 seasons with him, I guess 3 it would have been, I struggled to get that to get that out of there, but I think I've got it down now. Rob, good to see you checking in from Huntsville. Corey says, go to a circus and find any clown. That will be me. Did I hear Hoover versus Auburn going to be on ESPN this fall? Hoover, are you talking about high school? I have no clue, honestly. As much as I love all things Auburn, typically, I'm going to cut this down just a little bit. I notice I'm getting washed out here. Typically, I don't delve too much into the high school realm. So if that's what you're discussing, sure, why not? I mean, they tried this kind of stuff every once in a while. Corey says, I was disappointed they moved SEC Media Days from the Hyatt at the Galleria, excuse me, is how it said. My understanding is this is going to be on a rotation basis now. I understand why they came to Atlanta and the College Football Hall of Fame. Atlanta is just a bigger hub, more flights, all that kind of stuff. However, your home offices are in Birmingham. It would make sense to do it where your home office is. But for publicity standpoint, you kind of understand why it was done there, why it was moved there. I don't think that we're going to see it move there permanently, at least to start off with. I think this is one of those things that they're just kind of trying to do something new. I mean, you've seen this with the NFL draft, right? But they used to always be at, what is it called, Radio City Hall, and now they've moved on to doing it at different locations. This year was Las Vegas. Forget where it was before then, but they've moved it around quite a bit. A little bit of, not, it is football related, so I'll bring it up. Sal Cannella signed with the Green Bay Packers after a great USFL debut season. So yeah, that was great for him. Rob says, just another disappointing dog and pony show. What's the point? Wow. Aren't you a ray of sunshine today, Rob? Just pack it up. Let's go home. Well, unfortunately, Rob, I have a business to run and a show to do. So we're going to have to find some way to make the dog and pony show somewhat interesting. Frankly, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I thought there was more that came out of today than I expected. But I mean, to your point, this is really just another opportunity, the first official opportunity to get players and coaches in front of media members officially, get dressed up, do those type of things. But it is kind of the whetting of the appetite for what is to come. And that is the hardcore, games, the practices and things like that. To me, it's not so much that I enjoy the SEC Media Days experience, even though I've never been to one. Although I realized way too late it was in Atlanta, and I could have at least popped my head in there to say hello, even not as a member of the media. But I more so get excited because of what it means for us as college football fans, college athletics fans, of the beginning of a new athletic calendar year. Neil says that Harsin got a lot of praise at SEC Media Days. Yes, that seems to be the consensus. I think a lot of people liked the way he came out and initially hit the controversial stuff head on and kind of nipped it in the bud, so to speak, and said, if you want more information about that, all you need is online, the true stuff and the false stuff. Go look for it there. And unfortunately, there's a lot of the false stuff out there. So, I think the way he kind of came out, just head on and faced it and said, it is what it is at this point. It's kind of admirable about him. And, there were still reporters that wanted to kind of find ways to ask the questions afterward. Joseph Goodman. The moment that I realized someone was asking that question, I was like, oh, this is Joseph Goodman. Yep, that's him. He loves playing the villain. I know what you're doing, Joseph. I know. You don't fool me. But yeah, so that was high praises for him in that regard. But you can really see, I think, a level of comfort that is starting to settle in for him. And I talked a little bit about this. I kind of put out some initial thoughts on social media about some points that I took away from immediately after just an initial watching of that press conference. And one was talking about a comfort level in year two. And I think that covers a lot of different aspects, as a coach, as a culture thing. I think you can, excuse me, apparently I'm getting choked up tonight. I think you can really see that comfort level starting to settle in with him. And it is going to be a new thing to watch this year unfold at Auburn under Coach Harsin's tutelage and his direction and what culture he wants, because now it is his show. It is his guys, his staff. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily all there are. Yes, by the letter of the law, they are his players, but they're still obviously holdovers from the Malzahn regime that have chosen to stay, and I'm glad they have. So, yeah, I think a lot of high praise for him. He did a good showing. He didn't have a Clark Lee moment from Vanderbilt, admitting things that or saying things that we all know aren't true, such as Vanderbilt being relevant ever. I think Vanderbilt had a opportunity to be relevant. It was about about 15 years ago. They kind of went on a little bit of a streak there with, gosh, why am I blanking on his name? Franklin. Coach Franklin, and they kind of were relevant, but since then it's been tough sledding for them ever since then. So if you've got something that stuck out to you most, or if it was just another dog and pony show to you, as Rob said, what stuck out to you? Was there a quote? Was there a moment? Did you hear what you needed to hear? Was there something that you didn't hear enough of that you would like to have had expounded upon? Search that, or let me know in the comment section. We can hit some of that, and our Booster Club members can call whenever they'd like, and we'll just kind of bounce from discussion point to discussion point, topic to topic, as you guys feel like it's appropriate tonight. I said this last night in our Wednesday night live streams we do at 8 p.m. Eastern time every single Wednesday night since the dawn of time. We've been doing those in that time slot. I said that if you were expecting to have a quarterback named or any substantive information given to you about the quarterback, you were going to be severely disappointed. And that proved to be true. Although I think the one quote that Coach Harsin admitted on camera and, out in the public there is that he's very open and willing to play multiple quarterbacks. Is that a sign that the person that wins the starting quarterback job is kind of in a dual role with someone else? Not necessarily. But what it means is that if you listen to what Coach Harsin said, if the situation presents itself, if that advantageous for the team, for the players, there's no point in wasting talent on the sideline. We're going to get them in and use them in any way that we can that's going to help us. So that's probably the only substantive thing that you can take away from SEC Media Days in terms of the discussion about quarterbacks. Now, there was questions coming from Texas A&M today specifically about Zach Calzada. And they had a lot of great things. Even Jimbo Fisher had a lot of great things to say about him. All right, we got our first caller. She was taking a lot of notes, and I'm ready to be taken to school. I think she's taking cues from Thomas Manville. It's Miss Devin. How are you?
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, perfect.
Take me to school.
Okay, so first of all, I think, a lot of people are tweeting this, that Harsin totally won SEC Media Days.
Yeah.
And he won it in the first, 2 minutes. So that opening statement, I just laughed. I literally just laughed out loud. I was watching it, and when he said, I expect some of you didn't expect me to be here, that's just so him, just so in character for him. And he just shut it down. Of course, Joseph Goodman, like we talked about, we knew someone was going to, and it's probably gonna be him.
It's always Joseph. It's one of the Goodmans. It's always them.
Yep. But at least, so I mean, anyway, that we won't go there. But at least he defends himself. He doesn't just block people. He just responds and then moves on. So at least there's that.
It's like a little jab, and then just he didn't even realize that they got hit by Harsin, and then they keeps moving on.
Yeah. Yeah. So I liked how he addressed that right off and just immediately closed the discussion and talked about the silver lining too. It wasn't all bad. It brought everyone together. And along those lines, so Derrick Hall, when he was talking, he said he was going to leave after the Iron Bowl. He was like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm going to the draft. And then his mom actually talked to him about finishing school and graduating with a degree. Yeah. She's first generation, graduating from college. And so he decided to come back. And I don't think that's talked about enough, about the players who decided to stay and who could have gone to the draft but came back. I hear a lot of people talking about recruiting and negative recruiting and all this stuff. And it's just Harsin's in his second year, and let's pretend any of this stuff didn't happen. Do you really expect a second-year coach to be recruiting like Bama and Georgia? Heck no. That's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And if you think it is, you're crazy. It's just not realistic. These players have been building relationships with these coaches, some since 8th grade. I mean, that's just the nature.
Yeah, I
You
think it
know?
was not too long ago, there was like a 6th grader that was being recruited by Saban at one point.
Yeah. I mean, so you just have to give it time. I was talking to my dad about this and just about like all the like Auburn fans saying, "Oh, he can't recruit and you know, we should, you know, let him go and stuff." And my dad was like, "Well, these aren't true Auburn fans then, because I was an Auburn fan through the 70s." So
Yeah.
and he was like, "So, you know, it just takes time, but everyone wants instant gratification. That's just where we're at these days.
It's our
And that's
society, yeah.
it's just not how it works." But one thing, so if I could sum up what he was talking about in one word, is development. He hit on that so much throughout all his interviews. I watched them all. I've been watching SEC Media Days all week, so I could talk forever about it. But but yeah, he talked a lot about development, and I've heard like players say that Gus did not focus on that as much, and I've heard other people say that, and so that's just something different that Harsin really brings to the program, is focusing on developing players, and I really like that.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because this reminds me of something I was even thinking about before we went live here, about just kind of some points I wanted to find a moment where it fits in. I think it does here. You know, we've got a lot of the, you know, we saw it last night on a live show. It's unheard of that you would say anything nice about Gus. You know, apparently I'm a Gus lover. I don't know why that's a bad thing, but hey, I'll accept that label. You know, we can do that all day and, you know, try to divide each other up. But I think I had a conversation with someone in the not too distant past about that concept, about how neither coach is wrong, neither scheme is wrong. It's just about what's right at the time for the particular team. And the way that I kind of started formulating this in my head about this discussion point about, you know, what Harsin's doing versus and not doing versus what Malzahn did and didn't do, supposedly. Harsin seems to be focusing on the individual to fit them into the system, whereas Malzahn, in my mind, the way I formulated this based off what I was hearing from players today, was focusing on the system and trying to get the players to fit into the system. Yeah. And actually, in an instant gratification situation, that's actually the more favorable, which is why we got that Gus magical year at the beginning, because his system, when he gets the formula right and the people forced in there, it works and nobody can stop it. But if it doesn't, you saw what kind of happened. It kind of gets, the word is mediocre. But with Harsin, he focuses on individuals and builds them towards this goal, as opposed to forcing it in, supposedly. And this is just kind of what we're all piecing together.
Right.
It takes time, though, and takes patience.
Yeah.
It takes more than 2 years, but you can already see the dividends, as you pointed out. So development is probably a good word for that. Yeah.
And you know, I mean, all the players see when I want to know how coach is doing, I listen to the players. Because you can talk to all the analysts you want. You can talk to, you know, anybody else, but listen to what the players are saying. You know, they have talked about how much their strength and conditioning has changed and improved, and how much their mental, you know, development, and like Tank was talking about the little details that he's been focusing on and improving. So I mean, and I really like what Harsin said. He actually addressed the you know, regime change, or whatever you want to call it. He said, "I'm not here to play comparisons and compare. I'm just doing what I know works for me." And I think that's a great way to do it. I didn't like Gus or not like it. Like, I was kind of indifferent. I was like, you know, it was great when we were winning. It sucked when we weren't. And that was kind of like, I never really had, like, I don't have any animosity towards him or anything. You know, like, he's doing good at UCF, and that's great for him. And I don't think he's a terrible coach or anything, but I think that Harsin is doing a great job with what he's been given.
Absolutely. I think compare with what he's had to deal with. I don't know of many other people that could have handled and come out better, supposedly so far, with what he's had to put up with. Yeah, exactly. I just think that he's the right person right now, and he's done a really good job of building his staff around him. That's one thing he talked about. He just seems very deliberate with who he hires and who he gets around him. And he pointed out, he said, "Well, yeah, I know these guys, but I hired them because of their qualifications, not just because we're buddies."
So I've heard some rumblings of that. Oh, he's just hiring him because he's worked with them for years. Well, yeah. I mean, you want people around you that and that you've worked with, but he also knows that they're qualified. And I don't know if you've yet had a chance to listen to his podcast, but
bits and pieces of it.
It's incredible. I have had a great time listening to it, especially the assistant, the equipment manager.
Yes, Dana Marquez.
Yeah. Wow. That was awesome. He had some really good stories.
Yeah.
But it's just really great to get to know the coaches, better. And so he does a really good job, and having NFL experience around him. That's one thing that I think is different. Because a lot of the coaches that he has around him have sent players to the NFL or been in the NFL, like Ike Hilliard.
Right.
So they're focused on developing their players for the next level. And I'm not saying that other coaches aren't. I think a lot of them are, of course. But he just emphasizes that a lot. And I just think that's really great. And let's see what else.
Got a long list there.
Oh, I've got a couple pages. I'm sorry. I'm a nerd. I'm a note taker.
This is y'all's night, so you take all the time you need.
Okay. So he was talking about QBs and Tank and Derrick. I don't know if John Samuel Shenker mentioned this, but Tank and Derrick both said they were super excited to see who gets the starting job. And they were super excited to see how the contest plays out, and whoever gets the job is going to be ready, because they're both, it's kind of between TJ and Zach. We all feel at this point. I mean,
I don't know. There's a lot of people that say Robbie's got a shot. I mean, Robbie has a legitimate shot, but there's a contingency out there that thinks Robbie is it. And
that's true.
Maybe, but I agree with you. It is in my mind, it is a TJ Zach race right now.
Yeah, I think so too. I personally hope Zach gets it, but also, to my dad's point, he's like, I just hope whoever's the best gets it. And he will, because that's how Harsin operates.
Right.
His team. So when Derrick was talking, he talked about the whole situation in February, and he was like, holy crap, like, I can't believe that happened. He was just like, and they all decided what I liked about all the players got asked questions about it.
Right. Of course.
Harsin said, I'm not answering questions, but the players did. But what I liked is you can tell they didn't rehearse something, because they all had different answers per se, but it was all along the same lines, as we knew we had to come together and just keep working. And we knew we wanted Harsin as our coach, so we decided to say something about it.
Right.
And so that shows leadership, and Harsin talked about how the student leadership is different, from this season to last season.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the representatives that were there, you got John Samuel Shenker, who's viewed as one of the leaders of the offense. Derrick Hall, who's clearly one of the leaders in many ways, statistically, size-wise, a lack of neck-wise, because he doesn't have a neck because he's so giant. By the way, for those of you that are like blowing up that personal post I made about the comparisons between
that is true. I noticed that.
My phone is going off the hook right now. Like, I cannot.
I noticed that, like, straight off the bat. I was like, oh wow, they look totally similar.
It's one of those things that I think we've all thought it, but but nobody said it yet. So I chose to say it, and I guess that's what happens sometimes. But to your point, I think you've got Tank as well. I think Tank it's not that he's less of a leader; he's just not as vocal or out in front. In terms of Derrick, Derrick's been going to these basketball games. I've watched him be at the front in the cold with the students. I've watched John Samuel Shenker, be at events as well. These are two guys, especially, that have been out in the front. Tank is there to be a leader in the way that he needs to be. And so I think that's what you've got, is not guys that are rehearsed. They understand what they can and can't say about the situation, but they also want to speak as much as they can from their hearts, so to speak. So I saw that as well, and I appreciated their candidness at times about it.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of touched on this, the surprising groups to look out for, the tight ends and the DBs.
Yep.
And he also mentioned the O-line, which a lot of people are questioning. So I think that should give people a little bit of confidence that he said that the O-line has improved and they've been under a microscope, as he said. So I think that was good to see, and it was just good to see him more relaxed. He looked a lot more relaxed.
Oh yeah, cracking jokes.
Of course, I mean, you're gonna be like, once you've done this before, and after everything that went on, and everything. So, but that was one thing Greg McElroy said he wanted to see, was him a little more relaxed, confident. The media had nothing but good things to say about how Harsin conducted himself and how the whole media days went. They had Tank on at the desk talking to him. I really liked Tank's interview. I don't remember which one it was. I tried to watch as many as I could.
I know, me too. It's hard.
But I really liked his interview. He was just talking about how when he was deciding whether or not to leave, he said, I just thought about it like, am I running away from a problem? I don't want to be like that. So I'm just going to put my foot down, and I made the right decision to stay. And so I was really impressed by that.
Here, I want to do that. We'll take it. I'm guessing this is a dog fan. What are your thoughts on Kirby? Since you're here, what are your thoughts on Kirby Smart?
He's a great coach. I mean, he won a national championship last year. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I don't really pay attention to a lot of other coaches, and I'm not as well versed, and I do not have the history of watching, like, paying attention to football. I mean, the first like player I remember is Cadillac Williams in 2004. But then after that, I don't really remember like much of Auburn football until 2010.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a little girl. I wasn't really like, I love football, but I wasn't really paying attention, to it. But
he clarifies a little bit here. He says, what's your opinion on Kirby on NIL, where he signs a new deal but expresses his concern about NIL but is willing to sign it? That's what he's kind of getting at here.
Okay, well, there's a big difference between being a coach and being a player. Let's be real. He is running the football program.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not going to pretend to know should there be a cap on NIL or not, but I do know that I definitely don't expect the players to be making more than the coaches. Not realistic. Like, and maybe that is realistic in NFL, but this ain't the NFL. Not yet, anyway. This is still college sports.
For now.
So for now. So I mean, I don't know if I agree on the cap. I'm not really sure I have an opinion on that. I'm still really fuzzy about NIL, like, in general.
As we all are.
Yeah. So, but I don't have any problem with him signing a new deal, because that's what he does. That's his job. That's how he makes a living. I mean, so no, I don't think it's hypocritical. I don't think, at all. I
agree with you. I think we look for things to kind of, and I'm not saying, Thomas, we're not saying this necessarily about you. We're looking for things to be upset about in today's culture. And it's kind of like, all right, the dude is running a championship level program. I hate to say it, but it's true. Y'all don't have to live in Georgia. I have to live with these dog fans, not y'all. You have no idea that they were insufferable before this. They are awful now. I mean, barking. I still
cannot believe that grown adults actually bark in people's faces. Like, I just find that really hard to comprehend.
Yes.
And I hope I never have to.
Well, it's so, to me, it's War Eagle. We don't people who are doing it correctly do not War Eagle at others unless you're an Auburn fan. When you're barking at someone, like that's just that taunting stuff that kind of happens outside of the game. That's just not necessary. It's annoying. It's whatever. This is not Georgia SEC Media Days, but I did want it, since he brought it in here. I wanted to see. No, back to your list.
So getting back to what he was talking about, development and professional development, I kind of feel like this is why he'll be around. I know no one believes that he will be, but I think that we will have a great season. And I think that, everyone's still on the recruiting thing. I think people just need to leave it alone. He even addressed that. He was like, just watch and see what we do. And that's how it is. That's the reality that Auburn is in right now. You're just going to have to wait. So stop complaining and just wait.
Right.
There is no other way to do it. I understand it's frustrating, but there's no other way around it. You're just going to have to sit and wait. I mean, so you might as well just stop making yourself miserable. I don't pay attention to recruiting. I never have. And I mean, I do, like, I see the posts on Twitter, like so-and-so committed or whatever.
Right.
I'm like, oh, that's cool. But I'm not going to waste my time on it because I'm just going to focus on enjoying the upcoming season. And, you know, things will go as they go.
Oh, listen, Devin, it is nowhere near what it used to be when you had barely any information. You'd be sitting there on your computer at 2 o'clock in the morning hitting, you know, whatever, refresh.
Oh,
refresh,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Because Twitter has changed, you know, everything. Like, you just know at the drop of a hat, like when they've committed or whatever. And you know, or they announce their commitment on Instagram or.
Right. Yeah. It's fun when it's put in the right place, as many things are.
Right.
Football can be a bad thing too if you don't keep it in the right place.
Yeah. But yeah, I think he'll be around. It's my personal opinion that he'll be coaching Auburn for a while because he's focused, like, just how he talks. You can tell he's focused on the long game. He's focused on getting his players to the NFL, and people will buy into that. And we'll win, and we'll be a winning program. And people will buy into that because they see the professional development that they can receive at Auburn. And that's why I think that he'll be around for a while. You know, it's really funny. People are like, oh, we missed out on this kid, and Harsin obviously doesn't care about recruiting. Well, you don't know that. You don't know what he did to try and get that kid. But what do you want him to do? Because, you know, you hear the rumors about they're not giving out any NIL money or whatever. Right. So what do you want him to do? And who could do it better? Name me one person that could do it better. Yeah. You can't, because like, this is just the situation we're in. So saying Harsin can't recruit or he didn't try hard enough to get that kid, you just don't know that. You don't know what the situation was. You don't know who was talking to him and how often they were talking. And no matter who you say your source is, they don't know. Unless it's one of the coaches that you're friends with. I'm sorry. They just don't really know.
Yeah. No, listen. Everybody believes that they've got the guy that knows the most stuff. And, you know, I've been in that scenario too. We thought we had something down pat, and I know that we did, but it ended up switching, and look what happened. You have an egg on your face. So it comes with the territory. Listen, recruiting, you know, it is what it is. People, I've learned that some people just made it their God in a life, and it's not. I don't like that, but I can't force people to be that way. So my biggest thing in a nutshell for recruiting is just, hey, you know, try to keep it in the right place. Don't worry so much about it. Celebrate when they're here. And don't worry about the rankings and all that kind of stuff. So, but
yeah, exactly. And I mean, that comes with development too, because you can have a 3-star and develop. And Kirby does that all the time. You know, you talk about Kirby, like, having these amazing recruiting classes. Does he get 100% 5 stars? Absolutely not.
Right.
Like, you know, but he knows how to develop players. So that's, you know, that's part of it too. And, I think this is Mike Gittens, actually, from the War Report, asked him about this. The media said the over-under for us is 5.5 games this season, and Harsin was like, well, we don't play the media, so we don't care. and again, that's just more of his straightforward. He's just, you know, straightforward about that.
Yeah,
he's going to tell it like it is.
You know, predictions, you know, about as good as, you know, anything else that you can just throw out there. I'm going to offer up my predictions here not too long. And, you know, I say those always tongue in cheek because for me, what happens is a lot of the time when I make predictions is I try to come from a place of lower expectations with the acknowledgement that as the season kicks off, that Auburn fan in me is just going to just go nuts and be like, no, we're winning the national championship.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I don't go from going 8-4 to 12-0, but I might, you know, it was like last year. I think I predicted 8-4 leading up to my final prediction, and then I just pushed it up to 9-3 because I said I can't stand it. I cannot stand doing that. So predictions are what they are. Treat them as fun, and there you go.
Yep. And one thing all the players talked about was how Harsin works out with them. I thought that was pretty cool. And I'm not saying other coaches don't work out with their players, but I doubt that Kirby Smart is running decks with his players.
The only time Kirby was running was for when he was Nick Saban's defensive coordinator and he couldn't stop Cam Newton. That was the only time I've seen that man run. And that was probably a pretty ugly thing.
But yeah, so they talk about like how he works out in the weight room with them, he runs decks with them, like he's out on the field coaching and there with them. And I think it was Derrick who said it holds you more accountable because you can't be like, oh, you don't know what I'm going through, you're not working out, because he is working out with you.
There with you.
So I think that was pretty awesome. So I actually have a question for you. What your opinion is? He talked about playing multiple QBs, and he is fine with having to do that. Name a starter, but if you have to play multiple. So what's your opinion on that? Do you think it should be one guy or whoever? Like if he needs to put in someone else, Like we saw that at the Georgia State game.
Yeah.
Like Bo Nix wasn't doing it for us, so
yeah,
he threw TJ in there.
I think if last year is an example of what he means when he says that he's, then I'm fine with it, because there is a point you reach where the guy's not getting it done. And what do you have to lose if the other guy's, at least maybe a different skill set, but just as capable, can come in there and spark something? I mean, that's just trying to win a football game. So if that's what he means by that, I'm all for it. My biggest concern comes from a place of security for that starting quarterback, which, the Bo situation, we don't have to rehash all of that. No. Everybody was looking for a chance to hate him. That was a big concern, that kind of thing. Yeah. And I don't think we have that situation here. I think people have, the general thought process is souring on TJ Finley. So I think he would be the one that would find himself in that type of situation. So I would hate for a TJ Finley to win the starting job, have to have it, someone else come in and do the same thing, but opposite to him this year. And then us have to go through that cycle again. So it's a balancing act. Whatever gets us the W, I don't care. Put all forward. But
yeah, he said he's won championships with having multiple QBs in. So, I mean, if that's, I don't want to get, so I can't remember I can't remember what year it was. Wasn't there a year where like the first game we had like us rotated through like a couple different quarterbacks? Like he didn't name a starter. He just was trying out different people. Like, I don't think that's the best situation. I think you need to name a starter.
Well, but what happens there is,
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, we put all our, I think you're referring to the Jeremy Johnson time. We put all our eggs in a basket that proved at least one other time that it was going to be good, and it just fell apart. Like the Jeremy Johnson situation to this day, I literally, I was there at a game. I saw the man work magic, and then he gets the full reins, and I don't know. Like and we just put all our eggs in that basket, and when it fell apart, we didn't have a lot to fall back on.
Right.
In terms of that, which was a little bit of the Bo situation, the sophomore year. He was it. Yeah. Joey left. That was it. So anyway, yeah.
And then so this was interesting. I don't know if you heard this from Tank. One of the reporters asked if he was going to have a bigger role in the passing game, and he said, "Yes, sir." Yeah, I think so. What do you think about that? Like, I thought that was interesting.
I think you saw a little bit of that last year in Mike Bobo's scheme, and I think that frustrated fans a lot because they were getting them involved, especially later in the season, but in the passing game a little bit more. Tank Bigsby is a beast with the ball. You get the ball to him and just let whatever that means. If that's, a pass out into the flats, a pass out into the, the behind the line of scrimmage on a screen type of play, you give the man the ball and you let him do what he does, what his namesake is a tank. Yeah. And I think whatever way gets Tank the ball is what you need to do. Now, that being said, I am a traditionalist. I am a downhill, run it up their gut type of person. And that's what I want to see Tank to do. But that doesn't work if you're not balanced. And if you don't have a threat to do something out, people forget that Cadillac Williams, my favorite player of all time, is behind me right now in the image. Yeah, he wasn't a bruiser back, but he was still known for being able to squeeze through the middle and stuff. But he was very good at getting where, those wheel routes where they come out of the backfield up down the sideline and get forgotten about. If they can get Tank Bigsby on one of those and he gets momentum behind him, there's no DB that's going to stop that man. He's going to run right over him.
That's true. Yeah. So he also mentioned that when he talked about the run game, he said, we're going to get back to running like Auburn is known for. We're running back university. So, and actually Eric Kiesau in his first interview as OC, he said there's going to be a lot more downhill run game. So he's mentioned that. Harsin's mentioned that multiple times. So I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah.
Come the fall. But yeah, Tank. So Harsin talked about Tank being the most improved player, and then Tank, he himself said that he focused on being more of a team player. Not that he struggled with that in the first place, but just being a better team player and just focusing on the little things. So I mean, you get a guy like Tank, and he's improved. I mean, dang, like that's I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see that. So because we've all seen what he can do. So
his freshman year was so outstanding. It's hard to believe that a guy like that had room to grow. But I think that's part of the flaw in us as fans too, is we see this phenom as like, how much better does it get than this? And you're like, this is a freshman. Everybody gets better if you're trying, if you're under taking the teaching, the coaching, the conditioning that you're getting. Because even Vanderbilt, they're paid to do. I mean, like they may not do it to the level that Auburn, Alabama, Georgia does it, but they're still a Division I college football team. You come there to get better. So you have the tools, you just have to utilize them. It's that thing sometimes. It's with the issue of development that you talked about. And the reason I kind of push back a lot of times on that concept is people kind of, in my mind, harp on that. It's like, you can only coach so much. You can only offer so many opportunities. At some point, the players have to seize the moment. And I think where you find that is maybe in this Tank situation, a guy that burst onto the scene, had, everything in front of him based off that freshman year. And a lot of it wasn't his fault. The offensive line wasn't providing holes for him. Ran into some problems. There were rumors about a little bit of a tweak here or there. Had a little bit of we'll call it a humbling. Not a humbling is not a right word, but a less than stellar compared to what he did last year, second year, with all that was going on. You could understand where this guy finally takes a step back and goes, you know what? I can only control what I can control. And Coach Harsin talks about that a lot. Focus on what is under your control, not the noise. Block the noise out. Want to know mentality. And you see that a lot with Tank, and you hear him verbalizing that am I making a rush decision if I leave here? And the answer, I think, is yes, but only he can answer that. And I'm glad that he chose to stay.
Yeah, me too. So and the last thing, what Derrick Hall said about our defense, he said we're going to get back to that Auburn defense. So I'll be excited to see how that plays out. But overall, I think it was great. I think they did a great job. Bryan Harsin and all the players did a great job.
Absolutely.
All the interviews were excellent. And I watched most of all the other interviews, and I mean they're all good. But Jimbo, I watched Jimbo's today, and Joseph Goodman, speaking about him, he was like, Coach, how do you talk so fast? and he was like, well, why am I going to keep you in here? I just want to get you in and out, and I'm just going to say what I need to say and be done. It was so funny. He does talk pretty fast.
He does. And
he does.
I'll be honest. I've noticed after 8 years of doing, podcasting, YouTube stuff, that I had a tendency to kind of start talking like this too, like he does, like that. Slow down, just breathe, Kyle. Like I would listen to back myself, like, why am I talking so fast?
Yeah, it happens. But okay, so one last question. I gotta put the kids to bed. But do you think that they should get rid of divisions in the SEC? I think I asked this last night, but we didn't get to it. But do you think that they should get rid of divisions? Because the the Pac-12 just did, and the ACC did.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that, on getting rid of divisions?
We've played this out a lot, whether it's me personally or us discussing this on the channel. I think I did a video about there was a discussion of pods versus divisions. I think personally, divisions still can work even with Oklahoma and Texas. It would require us picking up a 9th SEC game. So you drop a non-conference game and you're still going to have some of the same issues where you don't see it Florida, you don't see it. Actually, no. So let me just cut straight to the chase. In my view, how you fix this, if you want to keep divisions, you put Missouri in the West where they belong. You move Auburn and Alabama over to the East. And so you have then basically what becomes the traditional Southeastern Conference, all those teams that began it. And then you've got what was at one point the Southwest Conference. That was actually a thing too.
Okay.
And you have these like super division type of situations, and they actually, it helps with logistics of traveling, all that kind of stuff. And it puts traditional rivals with traditional rivals. LSU and Auburn wasn't as big of a thing as we know it now to be, because by necessity, because of being in the West Division. Same thing with like Arkansas, Mississippi, and Mississippi State, because we're so close. There's always been that natural SEC rivalry.
Right.
I'm getting long-winded. To answer your question, the bigger it gets, divisions can't survive.
Right.
I'm not so opposed to conference expansion, especially if the other conferences are doing it as well. So it's kind of that thing where if I want to accept the expansion, then I have to be willing to give up the divisions. I like divisions. Sure. I like seeing, these teams every single year. But I also used to like I say used to because it hadn't happened anymore, seeing Florida every 2 years. Or seeing, Tennessee every or however long it was. I can't remember what the old system was, but it wasn't every 6 years. And then you don't visit there. So like if we had Florida at home or away last time, we won't see them until 12 more years after that, if everything goes according to plan. So
that's just crazy.
I like divisions, just not the way it's set up right now. Gotcha. If it could be fixed the way I kind of laid out, then I am all for it. What about you? I know it was your last question, but what about you?
I don't really know. I mean, I've heard people talk about like having 3 permanent rivals and then you rotate, through the other teams. I just don't know. I don't really have an opinion on it yet.
Yeah.
But I agree, if the conference keeps expanding, then it's not going to be feasible.
Right. Well, and I think we all see the writing on the wall, the way we're heading. We're heading to a point where there are at least 3 super conferences. I thought personally there was a window for the ACC and the Pac-12 to make an alliance essentially that I think would have worked beautifully. And so you would basically have, the Southeastern Conference, the big, whatever you want to call them. They're not the 10 anymore. And then the Coastal Conference. That's not going to happen now. But I think somewhere you're going to have some coalition develop amongst everybody else who doesn't get snatched up by the SEC and the Big Ten. I think we're still a few years off from that officially happening, but it's coming. And when it happens, divisions, as we know, divisions doesn't survive.
Right. I just don't understand USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten. I don't get it at all. Like it makes no sense whatsoever.
That's the only
I know. But also like, how, like, they get money, but then they're spending money going back and forth because it's not just football, like it's basketball too. So then they're like, I mean, they got to fly across the country, like, that'll be interesting. But yeah, I think talks of expansion have kind of settled for now. After USC and UCLA left, everyone was like, oh, these are all joining the Big 12 and all, like, just everything kind of exploded. But nothing actually happened after that USC UCLA shift. So I think it's settled for now.
Yeah.
But
the response has happened to what the SEC did, and now it's a question of who makes the second move or the next move. And then there will be another response, and then there will be another waiting period. That's how this happens, So
that's I gotta run. I gotta put my kids to bed. But It was great. I knew I had to get on because Dusty and Corey called me to the mat last night, so I had to get on. But it was good talking to you. I'll try and get on more often.
I appreciate it.
Kids.
I get it. But thank you so much for spending. Thank you for spending time with us, though.
Yeah, you bet. We'll talk to you later.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.
All right. Phone line's still open for our Booster Club members. If you are part of the Booster Club, patreon.com/E2C Network, you have the exclusive call-in link if you would like to take part in that tonight. You don't have to be on camera. It can be just the audio version of it. You have the choice to put your camera on. Take advantage of that if you'd like to. Corey's laughing at that now. Yeah. So I think Devin covered a lot of, the topics that we saw discussed today at SEC Media Days. That doesn't mean that we can't go back to some of them and rehash some of them. But I think she covered a very good wide brushstroke of everything that was discussed. You had obviously personnel, staffing discussed. You had conference realignment discussed and even asked of Coach Harsin. You had the controversy brought up. So we talked about a lot of those things. And, a lot of this discussion that we talked about today here at this show and at other, media outlets have discussed and talking with Harsin is about the culture shift. And when people talk about the culture shift, most people talk about that in the connotation of being the past culture wasn't good. And like Devin said, that's not necessarily altogether true. It's about what works for the time that we're in right now. And what works best is what Coach Harsin wants right now. And that's what you see still continuing to this day as a process of slowly but surely, the way we discussed it with her, finding what you can do to improve the individuals towards that overall system goal. I think he was being funny earlier. I think Neil earlier asked, what is Coach Harsin's system? I think Coach Harsin is the only one that truly knows that, even outside of his coaches, because I think he's a very flexible guy. And as rigid and as people like to say, hard-nosed as he is, I think he's a guy that values maneuverability, flexibility when it's appropriate. And I very much agree with that. And I very much try to model that in my own personal life. I like the ability to adjust on the fly. And a lot of that is by taking slow, deliberate, sometimes painful steps to position yourself. So when those challenges arise, you are ready to respond to them with not just one, not just two, maybe multiple options that could lead you down a path out of that bad situation or to make a good situation better. So just kind of talking about that overall discussion point, wanted to kind of bring that up. I enjoyed a lot of the candidness as we talked about with Devin from the players today. I thought John Samuel Shenker especially was a little bit honest at times about a lot of the questions he asked. He was even honest about Coach Harsin and said he's a little bit stuck in his ways, but he said that in a way that obviously he admires that about Coach. And he was even honest about Mike Bobo, about how probably some things didn't mesh as much as they thought they might have, because this is an alpha guy, as he described Mike Bobo, saying he was a former head coach and wanted to be in charge in the areas that he was allowed to be in charge. And you could understand that, right? I mean, that's what you signed up to do, but you also have got experience as a head coach. But it's not what we needed, apparently. And I always remember back, and I know I till I'm blue in the face, tell this story to you guys, that I remember sitting in that Chick-fil-A after I believe it's the Georgia loss, talking to some Georgia fans about Mike Bobo because they had history with him. And I asked, is this, even though it's not working at this moment, is this the type of thing, even if it starts working, we will expect to see this type of scheme, this type of play breakdown in terms of percentage to passing and rushing? And they said, yeah, this is it. I said, that ain't going to work. Auburn fans do not like that type of stuff. And it's here we are with a brand new offensive I say brand new, a promoted offensive coordinator. I'm really excited. I mean, today I walk away from SEC Media Days very excited, and it's very hard to do that for me because there is a lot of coach speak. There's a lot of repetitiveness. I think the excitement of the off season really propelled a lot of the interest of today, even with Coach Harsin trying to push aside the inquiries, as they're calling it, or the discussions about his job and moving forward beyond that. Sometimes the best way to move forward is just to ignore it and move forward. And not that he's ignoring the obvious. I mean, he addressed it and knows he had to say something about it, but they can only focus what's in front of them. I see Devin's responding to a lot of y'all's comments from earlier. That's one of the great things about having these little chat sessions for you guys is y'all get your own conversations going. And I get distracted by them at times. Okay. So we talked a lot about the press conference opening, the questions afterward that he got, talked somewhat about some negative recruiting that's happening for them. And the biggest remedy being just putting yourself out there on the field and showing them what they're telling to you behind closed doors, these recruits, that being is not true whatsoever. That's the best way that you can combat that negative recruiting. And negative recruiting has been going on forever. It's not a new thing. You take whatever ammo that you have, and if you're not using it as an opposing coach, recruiter, whatever your position is on that program, you're not doing your job. So I don't fault them. I'm not angry at them. I'm angry that we've given the ammo for it to happen, and that's on us, right? So that the way you fix that is by fixing your own problems, and I feel like we're on the way to do that. What's going on here? My family is very divided. I think my mom is a Georgia fan, stepdad's an Alabama fan, and I'm an Auburn fan. Yeah, I'd say that gets a little crazy around your place. My mother is an Alabama fan. Jessica, my wife, well, not even a majority, but a lot of them are Alabama fans. So we have a lot of interesting discussions, holidays and get-togethers and things like that. The majority of my family are Auburn fans. So we pretty much all get along outside of the few weird people like my mom and an aunt or two or three. But yeah, those things can get crazy. Dustin asks, are you giving your prediction tonight? No. In fact, I need to check my schedule. I started writing out some content schedule. So, speaking of family, there's one of my family members right now. Whit, what's going on, sir? My prediction is probably, I have it on my calendar somewhere. I think I scheduled it after the first week and a half, if they haven't named a quarterback. Oh, you're asking, I'm thinking about quarterback prediction. If you're asking about that too, that's coming. I will probably do the season prediction maybe like a week and a half before the season starts. It's on my calendar. That's all I can tell you. And I promise that I will do it at some point. There's Clint. What's going on, buddy? Yeah. My prediction is coming. I want to get us into fall camp. I want to see what we can hear, what, some of the media outlets are able to provide us with before I start saying officially, I've made it very open here that based on what I'm seeing right now, what I know, Auburn has the advantage at home. We've been talking about it at SEC Media Days a lot about the advantage of Jordan-Hare Stadium. It's very likely, I think Auburn goes 5-0 to start off the year. Very likely. And that's understanding that Penn State's coming to town. That's understanding that you've got to beat LSU. Even if they're struggling, it's still LSU. The big question comes, what happens when you run into Georgia? And I need to see some things about players' health. I need to see about this quarterback competition before I make solid observations and guesstimations and speculations about what predictions might be. You didn't wake up early enough to watch the media day. Yeah, it sucked it wasn't that early. I mean, that's normally about the time that I'm up and moving in terms of being fully awake anyway. But yeah, it was not as fun to have it first thing in the morning, but it also kind of was good to have it, get it started early, and then it kind of rolled throughout the rest of the day, as opposed to having it being at the end of the day. And then you're kind of like scrambling to get everything in that you want to watch and see, especially for someone like me, whose job is to talk about this stuff. And it was already a lot to keep up with without that. When are you doing a depth chart prediction? I don't know that I'm having a depth chart prediction show. We might. It's not something I usually do. I like doing prediction shows, but I don't want to like get so heavy on that because they become so obsolete. When you do a content company or channel or whatever you want to call it, because we do podcast and this YouTube channel, you want to try to do as much evergreen content that you can. And those kind of lose their value very quickly. So that's why, I kind of usually limit it to schedule predictions or the quarterback race predictions. That's kind of, those are the hot topics anyway, not necessarily roster breakdown. But I do have plans to kind of make some videos about the roster and things like that, but they won't necessarily be big prediction shows or things like that. Guaranteed losses. Neil, buddy, come on. I'm going to give you a hug. Virtual hug for you, Neil. We're not far away from each other, even though I don't know where you physically live. I know we're not that far away. Virtual hug sent to you, buddy. Linda's upset with you as well. Corey, they have not given an official timeline. It was either someone in the media or maybe just pure speculation on social media, but I thought I saw something about it would be open to the team after the season. I don't know that you want the distraction of that because it's going to be, state of the art, and it can be a distraction in the middle of a season. What wouldn't surprise me is if it's actually ready to go mid-season, and they might do some previews with the players and things like that. But as a reward, when we get to that postseason play, they start the move-in process over there to kind of reward them for getting to a bowl game or whatever they're at that point. Devin brings up the media was stressing the importance of starting 5-0, and it's doable for us. Very doable, but there's going to be a lot of pressure. We all look at it and see that that's a very doable scenario. That's added pressure. Still is a doable situation, though. How about undefeated? I keep that energy. Okay. Hey, I love that type of energy. But as I discussed with you, I like to come from a place of not lower expectations, but start there because I know I'm eventually going to go up. We're missing. So this is Neil's reasoning for why he says we're losing all of those games. We're missing a lot of key players, no QB, etc. O-line is awful. I'm being realistic. I'm going to disagree with you, Neil. You're not being realistic because you're not leaving the room for the O-line to have gotten better. And this is me, Kyle, who's done nothing but talk about how the O-line needs to step up. But I'm still hopeful and believe that this group, this is the year they get it together. And I think that's really what this hinges on more than anything, as I've always said. We are missing a lot of key players, but that doesn't mean those pieces haven't been replaced. We just don't know it yet. I think, Neil, I would also kind of lean more with him, not in terms of saying that we're going to lose those games, but I think you should have some tempered expectations after what we've been through. Maybe not to what Neil said, but I understand where he's coming from, just not the veracity with which he went about it. And I know we're having some fun here, so we won't take that too seriously. Let's see. Ole Miss. Okay, y'all are talking about his predictions there. Let's see. Football facility is 70% complete with an expected finish date of September. So there you go. Straight from the horse's mouth, Mr. Auburn Aesthetics, Buildings, History. I don't even know why I speak anymore. I just need to go reference Clint. Hope you're right. I think Boostergate has really distracted Harsin on the recruiting front, and they did a massive damage to you. Hey, absolutely, they did. I agree 100% with you. 100% that damage was done. Doesn't mean that it can't be fixed. Doesn't mean it will be. Doesn't mean it won't be. I'm giving you a hug, buddy. I know. I feel you. We've all been there. I'm giving you a hug right now. Virtual hug for you, sir. And hopefully we're talking in 3 months' time where we point back to Neil and his prediction and say, well, now I know that you'll be a happy person at that point. All right. We are sitting at about 9:03. I usually do these for about an hour. I don't have to go anywhere, so I can stick around for a few more questions, comments, and things like that if you guys would like to continue to do that. So keep those coming right now, but we'll move towards the end of our show here in just a little bit. But let me go ahead and get this in. If you haven't, please do check out some of the links in our description for ways that you can help support our content. We are a major part of how we keep the lights on is you just being here, obviously smashing the like button, sharing it out on social media, inviting your family and friends. But we have things that you can check out in the Booster Club and in our channel membership program. If you want to be a channel member here, $1 a month is all it is. That's it. That's all it is. $1. That's all it takes to get the icons next to your name, the emojis that we put out for you guys. And sometimes every once in a while, we'll throw you a bone that the Booster Club members will let us do. They get all the good stuff, though. Early access to things, exclusive call-in nights, tidbits of information that I may get, even if it's just a rumor or something like that. Fun things. They get opportunities to be on live stream calls with me, talk about what they want to see on the network. If you want extra access, that's where you go. That starts at $1 a month. That's all it takes to get you in the door and be on there. And I know everybody is, these days, there's NIL clubs to sign up for and all that kind of stuff. So I know money's tight. We don't expect that, but that is a way for you to contribute to our show here if it is something that you are willing to do. Neil says, I'm just being realistic and no sunshine pumping. I would disagree with you, Neil. I don't think that you are being realistic. I think being realistic is saying what Auburn traditionally should do, and that is at bare minimum go 6-6. That is bare minimum, but the expectation should be 8-4, and you can reasonably get there even with all those struggles. Sunshine pumping, that is not sunshine. Sunshine pumping, and I know we've got some very optimistic fans here, is saying and believing that we're going undefeated this year. There's very few teams that can say that and actually mean it and be serious. So that is sunshine pumping. Saying we're 8-4, even to 9-3. That's a little bit pushing for me right now. That's sunshine pumping. That can be, you have a point there. But I would say, what is the reverse of sunshine pumping? You were a little bit on that side of it. Bring on that uniform nerd again. Let's see here. I know y'all like him. We'll get him on some more. If uniforms could win games. See, there's Neil sunshine pumping. I can't say that for some reason. Anyway, so SEC Media Days, we talked about his initial conference. We talked about the questions he answered after that point. We talked about John Samuel Shenker a little bit, and we talked about Tank. I don't think we talked a lot about Derrick. Devin had brought up some things that he said. I'm just very impressed with this group, and not that I haven't been impressed with groups in the past. You know, I can remember Owen Papo going, Chandler Wooten going, Bo going, and being very impressed with that group. You know, people, laughed at Bo last year about us being able to beat Alabama, and lo and behold, he ended up almost being right. I mean, he basically was right. Had we had Bo, we win that game in my mind, because we're able to move the ball a little bit better. And we actually create a cushion for when Bryce Young actually had his Heisman moment. So I would say that this was a very impressive group to bring. You covered your offense, you covered your defense with having those represent. And sometimes it's kind of nice when you get your special teams as well. I think Anders went last year, if I'm correct. Or no, they didn't even do last. Did they do it last year? I can't remember. Anyway, good representatives. Coach Harsin shined, and I really think, other than Neil, as much as we're picking on him right now, again, buddy, virtual hug to you. We are sitting in a place of more positivity than we did February. And even, after spring game and stuff. And there was a little bit of a shot in the arm in terms of positivity. This is what you want. You want excitement to begin to build, begin to fester, to begin to brew. And then before you know it, you've got a lot of expectations raising. And those can be a disappointment if they're not met. But they can be, that validation that comes with seeing that come to fruition. That was when Owen and Bo, was it just the two of them? It may have been, but they usually take three with them. And I love it when they can do one defense, one special teams, and one offensive. But usually that means it has to be your kicker or your punter, being a senior. And well, Anders is a second senior, but I think if that's correct, and he's not in a position right now. He needs to focus on continuing to get that leg right. All right. It looks like we've caught up with most of y'all's comments and questions. We had a great discussion here tonight, and I appreciate Devin from our Booster Club calling in. As always, you Booster Club members, when we drop those links, y'all can take advantage of them whenever you'd like. Here's what we've got coming up for you guys. I have one more little vacation to go on about at the end of next weekend. So you probably won't see a lot from me outside of breaking news and things like that next Thursday till the weekend. But when I get back from that, we are ready to kick this thing in a high gear on this channel. We got a lot of content scheduled, a lot of things I'm excited to do with you all, but we're always going to be ready for our Wednesday night live streams, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I talked a lot about how you can support the channel. Honestly, be here on Wednesday nights. Take part in the show. Call in, invite a friend. Help us grow our little family within the Auburn family. And that's the biggest thing that I ask of you all. It costs you nothing. Just tell a friend, invite them to take part in a podcast, invite them to be here on a live show or just watch a video here. We want to continue to make this, even though it may be on the smaller side of a lot of those communities out there, the best little family within the Auburn family. Can you believe that Penn State thinks that they're winning? Yeah, I can. They have a legitimate shot. When I say that we're going 5-0, that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. Tice, I think they have a shot. I think Auburn's got a better shot, way better shot, but they have a shot. Don't sleep on Penn State. Thank you, Linda, for those kind words. I appreciate your patronage as a Patreon in the Booster Club, but also here. All of you guys, you are the best little family within the Auburn family. We'll have more videos coming out this week, so stay tuned here on the channel, on social media. You know, we see a lot of the same stuff that we'll share off all those things, but you want to be subscribed or following all of that stuff so you don't miss any content from myself and everybody else here at the E2C Network, where we cover the whole of the Auburn experience. Thank you guys for being here tonight. War Eagle, love you all. Until we talk to you again.